We now take you to the broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Blackwell. And let me say Hotep Baragani to my Africana studies companions and colleagues and seekers after the truth all. And let me hasten to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye, because I always find goodbyes traumatizing. I said I, personally, me, find goodbyes traumatizing. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles, and we're located at 8916 South Main. We're being hosted by our sister church, the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church, pastored by my good friend, Reverend Dr. Della F. Holliness. You know, they always say when the Baptists and the Charismatics get together, there's always going to be a shouting in the camp. And so we want to say a shout out to everybody at the church and in the congregation, and we're all looking to have a great time on tomorrow, God willing. All right, the offering that you are viewing is entitled "It's Time," and it is a social justice offering, which means I will not be doing any preachments. Not that preaching should not be done in all ways, but this is an attempt to look at how the events and circumstances around and about us in our environment and in our economics, of course, are affecting us. And as we said, environmentally, we're doing a very poor job of stewardship over the things that God has placed in our care. Then in our environment, whether it's near or distant, you never know what is going to come at you. You have to be careful and watchful. Those of us that were born, as they say, in the bottoms, we know we've been penned in from the jump street, and that's why so many ailments, respiratory ailments, are in our families and within us, because we were placed downwind, so we had to breathe in the pollutants and the toxicity. And if you're in the bottom, that means somebody's up on top, and whoever's up on top is throwing away that waste. What's he going to do? He's going to come down to the bottom. So your environment has been unnecessarily impacted by the effects of, yes, systemic racism. I was listening to a lecture by Bishop William Barber and Bree Newsom, the one that went up the flagpole there in North Carolina and took down the flag. And they was having a discussion about the effects of white supremacy and how how this racism has been elevated to the level of a religion. You got white supremacy, and you got the religion of white supremacy is racism, and they are affecting all the world, not just the people in a parochial area, but no, all the world is impacted by the consequences and the presence of racism. Ta-Nehisi Coates said racism is the predicate that spawned the advocate race, because you can't have racism without the corresponding race. And so we know race is a social construct, it's a political construct. It doesn't really occur in nature. And there is no white gene, there is no black gene, there's no African gene, there is no Jew gene. And so what we are dealing with, therefore, or mindsets. Mindsets. Let me read you what Mr. Barnwell Rhett, who was an editor there in North Carolina during the Civil War, as the Confederacy began to lose, they began to think about, well, maybe we need to put our slaves in the army. Listen to Barnwell Rhett. All right. African is an inferior race, but if slavery be not the best condition, and if they are fit for freedom and manumission, even as a reward for service, then the justification heretofore set up for holding them in slavery is false and unfounded. This was in the waning days of the Civil War, spouted by one of the chief fire eaters. The fire eaters were those who just wanted secession from the North at any price. And another observation was made by Howard Cobb. He too was a fire eater. This is what he said: the day you make soldiers out of them, meaning slaves, is the beginning of the end of the revolution. If slaves will make good soldiers, our whole theory of slavery is wrong. All right, and that's was the mindset of the plantation owners and the white supremacists of that day. Well, look at how that white supremacy has metastasized, how that racism gene has infected every institution that you can do business with. You find when you look beyond the veil that there is racism as a motivation, maybe in many cases a primary motivation. Case in point, the difference between the United States reaction to the Ukraine war and the difference in the United States reaction to Israeli-Hamas war. Let me read you some of the observations that I have gleaned that cause a bit of consternation. What I mean, we have a War Crimes Council and a Geneva Convention, but we don't adhere to it, evidently. Biden was condemned the attacks on hospitals by Russia, and Biden condemned bombing of civilians by Russia, and Biden has condemned the forced transfer of civilians by Russians. Why is Gaza different? If it's a war crime when the Russians do it, then it's a war crime when Hamas does it, and it's certainly a war crime when Israel does it, if it's a war crime. But we seem to draw a distinction based on what? Applications of irrational logic? Okay. It is stated by some that most big powers are political hypocrites. The Democratic Party in the United States of America is fracturing along age lines. That means the generations' view of the war and of the power of the state to conduct war is different based upon how old you are. The younger ones think differently from the more aged ones. All right. The U.S. supports autocrats and dictatorships. We are bitter about the Israeli occupation of the Palestinians, but the Palestinians have been hated, traumatized, and terrorized by Israelis, and that's a comment that a quotation that the presidential candidate Cornel West is observing in some of his campaign speeches. For 76 years, the Palestinians have been trying to fight for their homeland in spite of the encroachments and the taking of land by the Israelis. The Israelis have what you call settler soldiers. In other words, they keep their weapons and then they go out at night and they just take over a Palestinian farm or a Palestinian house and drive the people away, just like the white man did against the Apache or the Comanche or the Arawak or any of the other thousands, millions of Indians that were here before the settling, or for the coming of the Mayflower, in other words. All right. Dr. West, Cornel West, I'm recording, also says that it is a barbaric, genocidal assault on Palestinian bodies, dignity, and humanity. And the Democrats, again, are ethically bankrupt. All right. And so we come down to this consideration of this doctrine, this pathology, this religion, this theology of white supremacy. Then racism is its doctrine. And let me quote from Dr. Bishop Barber. Okay, here it is. He says that, and he's quoting Dr. Cornel West, he says, humanity of black people is a recent consideration. And he notes the fact that it is a political pathology. He has that under the heading of the 5 elements of racism. But I like this quote here. He says, even as they were sitting down at the table to do the Constitution, racism and slavery were underneath the table like a coiled serpent. And it looks like everything is done to keep black folks down. Now, I found it interesting that Dr. Barber lists 5 elements of racism. He said racism consists of evil economics. End justifies the means. If I can make money off of you, I'm going to make money off of you. It is a sick sociology. You have a hierarchy that somebody must always be on the bottom, and in order for somebody to always be on the top. And for generations, it has been a given that the African, according to the European, should always be kept on the bottom, even if he's up on the top. All right. And then Dr. Barber goes on to talk about bad biology. When he's under that consideration, he says humanity of black people is a recent consideration. You had that false science, brain size was connected to skin color, all of those type of doctrines, scientific racism, what we call it now. But it had its impact. Then he says one of the elements of racism is political pathology. Even as they were sitting down at the Constitution, racism and slavery were like 2 giant serpents coiled up under the table. And what came out of that Constitution was a compromise that said the slave was not human. He was only 3/5 of a human. And I don't know how they got all of that, but they did it. Amen. And so you have the theology of racism. And as we continue to look at the effects of racism upon all of us, consider that they don't have to take a gun now to shoot you. They can go to court, and the Supreme Court for the 8th Circuit has undermined the Voting Rights Act again. It's now saying that Section 2, which is how a lot of the court cases, complaints are brought in federal court, that I cannot do that as a private individual, which means that all of those cases that have been brought now are suspect. And according to the ruling of the 8th Circuit, only the Department of Justice could bring those type of cases. And so you can see how the Voting Rights Act that was passed in 64 and 65 is being hollowed out. They still got the frame, but they're taking all of the substance, all of the power out of the Voting Rights Act. And what is left is going to be nothing that any first-year lawyer could not push it down. And that is what is occurring right now. In other words, they're going from the sword to the pencil. But you better watch that pencil, because there's a lot of interlocking injustices. For instance, systemic racism, the policies and practices that affect black bodies and brown bodies. That's systemic racism. And then you got systemic poverty. There was over 140 million poor people just last year, the year 2022. And that poverty is man-made. It's like what Karen Bass said about homelessness. It is a man-made disaster. It does not occur naturally in nature that people be out in the streets. No, systemic poverty. And then the ecological devastation, which ties back into what we always talk about in the environment, and the denial of health care for the effects of those ecological devastations. You know, it is as though that the government wants some to live, but wants to bulk up people to not live, die actually. But if they do live, they live in a what? A substandard, low class condition where you don't have access to adequate health care, and you don't have access to clean drinking water, like what they're doing over there to the people in Palestine. Make your water dirty, so even when you're drinking water, you're not drinking to your health, because you can't ingest those type of bacteria and germs and continue to be healthy. It's just not. It just doesn't go along with that. And then the war economy, 53 cents out of every dollar goes to war, and only 16 cents winds up going to help the poor. So that's 53 cents off the top of every dollar, and then only 16 cents is going for education, healthcare, and housing. So you can see the further activities of white supremacy, how the religion of racism is being practiced in our country. And then there also a false moral narrative. What we mean by a false moral narrative? Well, who writes history? Who tells the story? If you talk to the Indians, they're going to tell you a different story than if you talk to the white man. The white man is going to tell you about manifest destiny, that this land was given him. He's going to tell you he's the descendant of the the 10 tribes that didn't come home to Israel. He's going to tell you that God authorized him to take these people's land. And but that is a false narrative. It's almost that if to be a white supremacist, if you are anti-gay and suggest that Jesus was a charter member of the National Rifle Association, you got good religion. And so these things we have to be aware of, yes, and take account of, even as we are in the festive time of the year. Like I said, last week we celebrated Thanksgiving, but of course we don't all celebrate Thanksgiving the same, because me being black, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving like a white supremacist. A white supremacist thanks God that he's on top, and that he is in charge, and that he has power, and he intends to keep that power. That's how he celebrates Thanksgiving. But I have to celebrate Thanksgiving on the basis of how good God has been to me, in spite of the presence of white supremacy and systemic racism that he has brought me. He has allowed me to come through the vagaries and the drudgeries and the perils and the dangers that beset me round about, both in and out, when I'm out the house and when I'm in the house. But I have to thank God for how he has allowed me to be secure and safe and sound, in spite of all the things that are coming against me, that I may know and that I may not know. Because you may not know that there is a murderer out there, but if he's out there, he's gonna make himself known. And so you have to thank God, as the old songwriter said, for bringing us through dangers seen and unseen. And because if it had not been for the Lord that was on my side, I can say, I would have perished. But the Lord has been good to me. I came to this town with $300 in my pocket, and the Lord have blessed me. And he have taken care of me. Of course, I ain't got no business talking about that now. But God have been good. And that's why I celebrate Thanksgiving, because I know how good God have been to me. Yes, he give me a reasonable portion of health and strength. And every day when he wakes up, I still got my right mind. And so I thank God for the blessings, because a lot of people my age, 76 years old, are not in their right minds. And a lot of them, if they got their right minds, they don't have the health and strength. And so you have to, that's why I thank God. And on the basis of Abraham Lincoln's authorization for celebration of Thanksgiving during the Civil War, the height of the Civil War, yeah, we have to tell God thank you, because if the South had won the war, Lord have mercy. But thank God for the North that they won the war. And so whatever else have happened, at least we got out from under that slavery. Amen. Now, as I get ready to wrap up, I'm going to go back to Amazon. Amazon had a chance this year in Bessemer, Alabama, to vote for a union. Amazon in Bessemer, Alabama employs 6,000 people, and 5,500 of those people are black, and 500 of those people are white. All right, but they had a chance to get a guaranteed income because most of them are just working day to day. They don't have no right to health care, and they really don't have a right to a decent salary. You know, Bessemer, Alabama, you don't have to pay as much in Alabama as you would pay, say, out in Ontario, California. And so They're trying to get a decent contract. Well, Mr. Jeff Bezos, who owns that, he made $189 billion just last year. And so if you make $189 billion, why are you begrudging me, $35 an hour, $50 an hour? You're making $189 billion, but you're going to begrudge me my little, all right, my little stipend so I can feed my family? You know that ain't right. And the salaries of most of these CEOs, the salary for the CEO of General Motors was $121 million this year. And that was at the height of the strike. And the other company, which was Ford, and the other was Stellantis, their CEOs likewise make over $100 million. That's their salary. But yet they're going to argue with you about kibbles and bits. Lord help us all, And that is why all across the country, all across the nation, in every healthcare, every field, whether it was healthcare or janitorial or custodial or truck drivers and acting and screenwriting, writing for plays and all that kind of stuff, people are beginning to say, well, look, y'all trying to write me out of history. I ain't going to be able to make no money after a while because you're going to bring in all of this AI and you're going to put these robotic trucks on the road and put these robotic cars on the streets, and you're going to tell me I don't need you. And that's why they have to strike now, because it'll be too late once they get all of this AI in place. I'm sure you've noticed that when you be typing something on Facebook or in Twitter, that they got a little something running in the background, it'll change your words. If you ain't careful, you got to read what you wrote before you submit it, because that AI is already at work changing the meaning of your words that you are writing. And so just think how much worse it's going to be in a couple of years, because these artificial intelligence, so they tell me, they don't have to sleep. I got to go to sleep. I got to get some rest. If I'm reading a book, I'm going to go to sleep while reading a book. But that AI, it reads all that data, bits and bytes and all of that type of stuff. That's all it has to do. So it don't break down. It don't take no coffee break. Don't have to go to the bathroom. Don't have to go to sleep or nothing like that. And so it's always learning. It's training itself and how to do the job it has been assigned better. And the AI is being assigned to duplicate me, duplicate you, and so that make me obsolete if I don't speak up and speak up now. That's why these athletes are getting access to their name, image, and their likeness, and where they can profit off of their likeness, their image, or their name, which was unheard of when I was a child. But now finally, the athletes and the people in the athletic field, in the colleges and high schools, can actually cash in on their abilities or their talents before they get injured, because all of them can't go to the pros. No way. All right, I have spoken my piece, and I want to say a shout out to my friends in Dallas and everywhere down there. I don't want to call nobody's name, but I thank God for my friends in Dallas that pay attention to my broadcast. And it was not on, they called to let me know, so we can get your broadcast, what's happening. And so as I close out today, I want to say, if Jeff Bezos can earn $189 billion in 1 year, He ain't got no right to begrudge you $50 an hour. And as I close, if you're working on a job and they don't want to pay you, my brothers and my sisters, take my considered advice and don't work for them. Thank you, Doc. We out of here. Love you.